I'm writing to talk about Rabbinic Mitzvote versus Torah Mitzvote. Now, just a quick little background. I know some of you know this. The Orthodox believe there are 613 commandments in the Torah. Now, they started with the number 613 and then went looking. They get the number 613 from Gematria, which is Hebrew numerical equivalents of each letter. So the word Torah works out to be 611, plus 2 that God delivered, that would be 613. Then they went looking in the Torah, and Maimonides found 613, 365 negative, 248 positive. Other rabbis have slightly different lists, but there's clearly, whether you're Orthodox or not, many mitzvot in the Torah. It says, God said to Moses, saying, you shall command them to do X, Y, and Z. Now, there are some commandments in Judaism that are commandments, but not from the Torah. They're actually from the rabbis. We call them mitzvot derived versus the mitzvot from the Torah, which are mitzvot midaraita, which is an Aramaic word. Now, some examples of the Torah, the mitzvot that are midarabbana, and you still say a bracha, which is interesting because you can't say that all the mitzvot are from the Torah. These are the rabbis created these, but they still want you to say a bracha. Now, of course, there's two kinds of brachot. There's one that begins Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. By the way, if you're Orthodox, you may not like that I said that because you think you should only say that if you're actually doing the bracha. We believe that we don't want to teach people the wrong thing, and if we're saying the bracha for educational purposes, it's not a violation of taking God's name in vain. Any case, so if you're saying a blessing of enjoyment, it's not a commandment, you would say, blessed art thou, O Lord our God, and whatever the enjoyment is. For example, if you're eating an apple, it's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'etz. Or if you're drinking wine, or eating grapes, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'gafen. Now, so that's one of them, midarabbana, that you're commanded to recite a blessing of enjoyment, but since you're not commanded to eat that particular apple at a particular time, you cannot say the extra 4 words, Asher kitshano b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, who commanded us to do something. You're not commanded to eat that apple at that moment. Actually, the only time for food that you're commanded to is on Pesach for the Seder to eat matzah. Another one would be washing your hands richly before washing. We do say there, Asher kitshano b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Or for lighting candles, for Shabbat, for example. We say those 10-word introduction commandment, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshano b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, and then we say Lahadlik ner shel Shabbat, to kindle the lights of Shabbat. On Yom Kippur, it's Lahadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. On Hanukkah, it's Lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. On the holiday, it's Lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov. But we do say we're commanded to, even though it's rabbinically derived. Or constructing an Eruv, or reciting Hallel on the special days you're required to, or reading the scroll of Esther, which is interesting because Esther, unlike Hanukkah, is in the Tanakh, it's in the Hebrew Bible, but it's not in the Torah. So the rabbis said, when you read the book, it says clearly to recite the book of Esther on Purim, so the rabbis made that a commandment. Now, these 7 rabbinical commandments are treated like biblical commandments insofar as prior to the performance of each one, a benediction is required. Now, the divine command is considered implied in the general law to follow any instructions of religious authorities. So it says in Deuteronomy 17:11, for example, to follow the judges in your days, and it says that in the Talmud and Tractate Shabbat 23a. In addition, many of the details of the specific biblical mitzvot are derived only via rabbinical application of the oral law. For example, the reading of the Shema from Deuteronomy 6, the binding of tefillin and the fixing of the mezuzah from Deuteronomy 8:9, reciting Birkat HaMazon from Deuteronomy 8:10. Those are derived specifics from the oral law. Anyway, so that's a little bit about mitzvot derabbanan versus mitzvot midaraita. Rabbinic mitzvot versus those directly from the Torah.